Hey everybody, hello, welcome, thank you so much for joining me. This is Puke's podcast. I'm your host. My name is Puke. I have other names as well. And this is episode number 2. Episode number 2, you guys. I am very glad that you are joining me today. It has been 6 months since the last episode. Episode number 1 was in January of this year. It is now late July, and I'm filming episode number 2. Now, technically, I did film episode number 2 earlier this year. I think February, March, something like that. We'll get to that part. January, that was late. I had told people that I was gonna come out with episode 1 before the new year, and then didn't even record it until January. Okay, so in this episode, we are going to go over a couple things. We're going to talk about this place that I'm in right now, Audiowild Studios in Idyllwild, California. Technically, the very first all-ages DIY club in Idyllwild. Now, why am I calling it a DIY all-ages club? Why am I not calling it a music venue? Why am I not calling it a recording studio? Why am I not calling it a house of worship? We'll get to all of these things. But yeah, we'll talk about Audiowild Studios. We're going to talk about how I did it, how this whole thing came to be. We're going to talk about the people that helped make this a reality. We're going to talk about why you should start your own venue. Not necessarily because it's easy, but because it's worth it. We're going to talk about the Audiowild Church of Divine Vibes, which we didn't really get to talk about in the last episode. So I'll get to explain, what is it? Is it a cult? Is it a tax shelter? Let's find out. Wait and see, okay? And then we're going to talk about the next chapter of this place because I don't know if you heard. I'm sorry if this is your first time finding out. But it turns out, you guys, that our lease for this unit and the unit that I have upstairs, the current owners have decided that they are not going to renew it. They haven't given me a reason. They won't discuss it with me. Originally, the property manager was like, oh, of course. Yeah, I can get a meeting figured out between you and the owners. It went from, yeah, of course, to a text message the next day saying, please see an email from management. Which is weird. Like, you are management. Why are you telling me? You're speaking about yourself in the third person by saying that management email. You mean you? Oh, anyway. Yeah. So this place is closing down. It's been 5.5 years in this spot. Originally, the stage was over there on that wall, that little green area that you might be able to see if you're watching this on video. The stage over here, this is actually the original wood and everything from the stage that was on that side. Although I think it was only 3 inches off the ground before. This is like 18. But yeah, we reused everything to move it over here. Laid the room out a little bit different. Before, everything was really narrow and straightforward. You would walk in the door, you'd just see people's right ears because they're looking at the stage that way. But this really opened everything up. And yeah, it's hard for me to let go of the vision, you guys, because obviously things didn't get finished here. We are over a year into a remodel that it was pushing it to try and do it. I'll admit that. Especially because there was no budget. I was like, well, let's just throw some fundraisers together. We'll have some people donate building supplies and stuff. We'll get things taken care of. And it wasn't just to move the stage. moving the stage was only part of the equation. Yes, it does have benefits facing the direction that it's facing now, rather than when it was facing this way, it went directly into the neighbors. So that was an issue. Yeah, there's been a lot of issues. We'll cover a lot of those. So from my last episode, I do have a correction to make. There probably could be multiple corrections. I probably got some stuff wrong, but the one thing that I definitely got called out about, thanks. 2005 was not the year that I moved to Idyllwild. I got that wrong. 2005, we toured with Garbage that year. We toured with Goldfinger that year. Like, I know that I was in Idyllwild at some point or another, hanging out. But no, that was not when I officially moved. That wasn't until 2006. So that's been 20 years now, which means that I've also been wrong anytime that I've been like, oh yeah, I've lived in Idyllwild for like over 20 years, bro. No, just 20, and not even a full 20, because a few of those I lived abroad. So bottom line is I'm just full of contradictions. So yeah, that's my one correction for this episode, to correct from the last one, from episode 1, 2006, not 2005. Now, episode number 2 was originally going to be somebody different. I was going to have an actual guest. It wasn't just going to be a talking head like this again. No, it was supposed to be another person, a great person, Miss Emily Burton. She is a Idyllwild local, or has been for a few years now. She is the guitarist in a band called Fireball Ministry. And she is also the guitarist in an all-female Black Sabbath tribute band called Black Sabbath. We interviewed her for an issue of a local magazine that never ended up coming out. I interviewed her for podcast episode number 2 that I don't think is coming out. I had technical difficulties. Cameras failed. Audio was bad. I didn't really do a great job of interviewing. And it was even a makeup interview from the one before. It just, I'm sorry, Emily. We'll maybe try again. I don't know. I don't even know if it's worth your time at this point. But yeah, she's great. Check out her bands. So Black Sabbath played here. I have a list of bands that I wanted to give a shout out to real quick that played here. So Morgan Miles, she was on The Voice, I think 3rd place contestant on The Voice a couple years ago. A band called ACDV. They're a lot of fun. As you might be able to tell from the name, they are a cover band that plays AC/DC songs, but it's an all-gay men cover band of AC/DC. So they changed the lyrics to be about gay stuff. So like instead of whole lot of Rosie, it's a whole lot of Jose. It's fun. And I was definitely cleaning up confetti and glitter out of this place for quite a while. Shout out to Spray Allen. They played here. That's so the most famous person in the band is going to be Eric, their bass player, who's also the bassist in a little band called Sublime. That was a super fun night. The Native Howl, Alan Johannes. We're going to talk about him later. I can't believe that he's played here twice. The Blank Tapes, Pearl Charles played here. Thank you to Fran. Narcoleptic Youth played here. The Freaks, Contortion, Jessica Von Rabbit, Instigator. Instigator does the theme song for Puke's podcast. Black Sabbath, I mentioned. Dolly's Llama. They recorded here as well. I'm still waiting for that album to come out. Zach. Boss's Daughter, Giselle Wu and the Night Owls, The Odd Advantage, Jeff Schroeder from Smashing Pumpkins. So many amazing groups. I'm sorry that I can't list them all. This would be much longer than it's already going to be. Local bands, too. Let's not forget local bands. Honeypot. I mean, I had to. I'm in that band, too. Was. Pentagrams and Daisies. They just played here. It's going to be pretty much the last show ever. The last band to ever play here. Local band. Spaceman Trilogy. Vincent's Choice. The first time that they ever played was at a jam night here. Stereo Purrs also. I believe everybody met at jam night, local jam night on Thursdays. The Family Jewels, Toller Gibson, Francesca Brown, Red Pony, Head Shop, Apple Sex, 4-Bits, Fawn of the Mud, Old Man Prophet, Flippin' Daisies, Nathan James, and I cannot stress how stoked I am that Casey Abrams performed here. American Idol's own Casey Abrams. It wasn't a show, so don't be mad that you missed a show. He just showed up one night at jam night. This is something that we've been doing on Thursday nights for years now. It's kind of like an open mic, except with an open mic, usually people show up early to get on a sign-up sheet, and they pick a time, and you stick to it, and maybe walk-ins will get to play if you have a chance, but usually the list is kind of filled up. That wouldn't really happen in Idyllwild. No, nobody is showing up early enough to put their name on a list. A lot of times there's people that are out in the parking lot for a while getting up the courage, let's say, to come inside and perform. So instead of doing signups, we did much more of a get in where you fit in sort of model, where it's like, you want to go up on stage, go up on stage. If you want to perform with the person that is performing on stage, you can do so. Ideally, if you know the song that they're playing, but also if you just want to jam, don't just run up there while somebody's performing and fuck up their set. Like, start doing, bashing on the drums or something while they're trying to do like a soft, sensitive acoustic number. We're all about consent here. So it was a happening thing for a while. The jam nights. I got to thank Sin and the Art Alliance for helping with that one. And actually, there's a few shout outs that I got to give. Yeah. For a DIY place, it wasn't just myself. But there was, they say that it takes a village, and I don't think we're technically a village, but we kind of are. Chris Mitchell, big shout out to Chris Mitchell, professional sound guy. He moved away fairly recently. I think it was only last year. I don't know. Who knows? I'll have to look that up. Maybe I'll put it on the bottom of the screen when it actually happened. But Chris helped out here for years. I had first opened up and didn't really know what I was doing. The gear was pretty sparse, but Chris and I knew each other from the Idyllwild Strong Festival. I had hired him both years to run audio for one of the stages, the Merkaba stage. It's a long story, but it was a happening spot, and Chris helped a lot. So he already knew that we had similar work ethics, and he had a bunch of gear that was sitting in storage that he was anxious to get out of storage and be able to plug it in and use it. And there's still some of like the speakers and stuff over here. These monitors are Chris's. Some of the power amps that are running, because these are all passive speakers. That's all Chris's. He had a digital mixing console, 32 channel. It was the Behringer, the X32, not the X32 Air. It was like the actual one. Now there's a analog 32 channel Midas. It's a Venice 360. sounds amazing. And it'll sound amazing wherever it's going to live from now on. But yeah, shout out to Chris, the mad scientist who kept figuring out new and exciting ways to expand the audio horizons of this place. And he also had some cool stuff, you know, his own mic lockers and things that he would bring out of hiding every once in a while when we had a recording that was worth it for him. It was something that meant something to him. He'd be like, all right, I'll be right back. I'm going to grab the Neumanns. And yeah. And it was cool. It was cool. Thank you very much to Chris. Mackay Metzler. Dude, Mackay was always on top of things. Never batted an eye. If I was like, all right, we're going to have to take all this stuff and move it. Someone can be like, okay, where do you want it? Just a great dude, hell of a guitarist. Nathan DeJarnette, I joke around. I call him Nathan DiGiorno. But he's not Italian. He's French or something. French and Jewish. Gench. Mensch. He's a mensch. He's a French mensch. Nathan works at the local hardware store. We were both in we had a nonprofit together. We were both on the board, president and vice president. He was like my right-hand guy for Idyllwild Strong. He's, I think, the only Pro Tools certified audio guy in town. Definitely knows his stuff. He's like one of the only ones that I'll trust to run the board when I'm not here or when I need the extra hands or whatever. Nathan's saved my life so many times. Roxanne Barba, treasurer on the board for the Church of Divine Vibes, the amazing Audiowild Studios logo, plus the logo for this podcast, plus my DJ B Wild logo. Like, she's a very, very gifted artist. And also, like, we would not still be around if it wasn't for her. Like, I'm sure people hear that Audiowild is closing, and it's like, wait, it's still there? Wasn't it closing like 2 or 3 years ago or something? I thought, yeah, okay, this place has kind of been perpetually in danger of closing. All right, it's been a hard road, but this time it's for real. Arn Hancock, got to thank Mother Arn for all of his help with the door and everything. Always trying to be helpful with pretty much anything you would ever need, especially like marketing, promotion, all of that stuff. He loves just telling people about the upcoming shows and everything. Poor Arn, he has the clothing store, Idyllwild Clothing Company, and he will spend all day talking to tourists and the people coming into his shop and giving his whole spiel and, oh, there's this coming up and we got this coming up, whatever. He will lose his voice before the weekend is over because he's so excited. He just loves telling people about things that are going on. He's always promoting stuff. He's such a great dude. I also got to give a special shout out to Brandy. If anybody remembers the very, very early days of Audiowild when you could still draw on the fucking wall, and Brandy was helping out in the kitchen. I can't legally say that it was a bar. It was definitely not a bar. Not a bar. And not really a kitchen either. It was a room that has a sink and a fridge. Well, now it has a fridge. It had a cooler for the longest time. But Brandy was in there helping out, making sure people didn't get too crazy or walk out with stuff that wasn't theirs. Or, yeah, she was great. She helped out a lot, and always had her kids over. So even when there were certain nights that maybe the turnout was a little low, there would still be half a dozen people here. Her children, just loving life. We've had some awesome donors keeping us alive, whether it was the GoFundMe that Jenny Kirchner set up, or the benefests that we've had. There's been multiple occasions where we've had to kind of put our hand out and be like, hey, if you like this place and you want it to continue, we're really going to need your help. And so I just want to give a quick shout out. I'd mentioned the Art Alliance. Camille, absolutely. Thank you so much for all of your help, Camille, always. Dallas, I got you. Don't worry. Emily, Josh, Phil, Anna, Brandon, many, many others, but those are the people that have definitely given the most out of everybody, at least as far as I can remember. If I'm seriously forgetting somebody, slap me in the face. Oh, Suzanne, probably. She would want me to mention her. People who have helped build things here, like this stage was not here, and this stage was over there. Same wood and everything, but yeah, it was relocated thanks to Liam and Scott. Of course, Nathan helped. The other mini split in here with Marcus, Jeff, Sam, Jules. There's been a lot of people who've helped out. There's a lot of people who have offered to help out too, and it's not that I didn't want them to. It's just that I have part of what I'm getting better at is delegating and relinquishing control and being able to trust people to do a job and to do it to a certain standard and not have to micromanage and all that other stuff. It's a process, and I haven't been great at it. So my apologies to all the people that were just trying to help, and maybe I chewed their head off once or twice for not helping the right way, according to me. Anyway, still, thank you. I'm very, very grateful to all the people who have helped, who continue to help. Like, I'm glad that this means something to so many other people. So, again, thank you. So, yeah, guys, let's go over this whole journey and how it started, how maybe you could do something similar. We'll see. But this is something that we desperately need. We need more venues. We need more sanctuaries for sound. So yeah. It all began in March of 2021. Now, 2021 started out in a very interesting way. Of course, we were still knee-deep in a pandemic. Some people were getting a little feisty. 2020 was a hell of a year, and it spilled over into 2021 in very interesting ways. So January 2021, there were some interesting things that happened, not just on the world stage and the national stage, but I got my car stolen. Yeah, I was having seizures. It turns out, some other health issues and stuff. And I wasn't really taking it seriously at first, but I decided to get checked out. And right around, I think it was by February 2021, I was seeing a neurologist, and we were trying to figure out where the seizures were coming from. My license had been suspended. I was going through an interesting sort of practically midlife crisis, we could say. And I knew that I wanted to move operations, if I could, from my 1-bedroom apartment to an actual place with square footage that I didn't have to sleep in, and we could turn it up and get loud, and maybe some other people would want to come and turn it up and get loud also. So I started looking around. I found this spot, which at the time, it had just been the Center for Spiritual Living. It was a church. They were doing AA meetings and stuff here. Sundays there would be music performances, but most of the time the unit was pretty much empty. And it had been sitting empty for a while. I had reached out to Evan, who was the owner at the time. He had inherited it. He and his sister. And I kind of was putting some feelers out, and I'm like, hey, I'm interested in this spot. And he was like, well, what do you do? And I was like, all right, I'm going to tell him that I want to make it a recording studio, and he's going to tell me to get fucked, and that's just going to be the end of that, and I can get this out of my brain and stop thinking about it. And I had said, recording studio, and he said, oh, that's awesome. And I was like, well, huh? Wasn't expecting that. But I didn't have the funds at that point. I was working at least 2, maybe 3 jobs at that point. All restaurant type kitchen jobs, service industry. Obviously having some interesting health issues. So I kind of dropped it. I figured, okay, I asked. He said that he might be interested, but there's no way that I would actually be able to do it. Like, I can't, they were going to have to check bank records and all this other stuff. So I didn't get back to him. And then he ended up reaching out and was like, hey, I thought we were going to do this thing. And I'm like, yeah, but there's certain requirements that I'm just not going to be able to get, like somebody like me isn't really supposed to be opening a business, And I was being as truthful as possible, just hoping, not really hoping, but I guess anticipating that it was going to be a no. But he was really, really interested. He was really adamant. He was like, I think this could work. And I was like, well, I mean, how are we going to get around this? He's like, well, we'll waive this requirement and we'll do it. Like, this guy moved heaven and earth to be able to get me to sign this lease. And it wasn't until everything was already said and done and they were showing the unit upstairs that I was like, oh, crap. There is no soundproofing between any of these units. Like, just the sound of them walking around upstairs showing the unit to somebody, I was like, uh-oh, this is bad. I was still heavily drinking and smoking in those days, which, might have had something to do with the health issues that I was experiencing. I was waking up feeling like crap all the time. And I figured that it was just from drinking and smoking. I didn't really know that it could have been from anything else, but that's what we were trying to figure out. That's why I was seeing a neurologist who eventually, they couldn't really figure it out. And I was like, cool, can I get my driver's license back? And they're like, well, now it goes to cardiology. That's kind of next in line. And cardiology was telling me, like, hey, I think your heart's stopping. And I was like, that makes no sense. Like, you're telling me that I'm just like dying while I'm awake? Wouldn't I be noticing that? And they were like, yes, it would be very unpleasant. You would definitely notice. I'm like, okay, well, I haven't noticed shit, so that must not be it, doc. And I just kept going about my merry way. It was March of 2021 when the lease was signed. I got the keys to this place. Unfortunately, right before, a very, very, very close friend of mine died. Literally 2 days before I got the keys. We had plans to record her album. She was so stoked on the studio. So yeah, that was another tragedy of 2021. It was rough. It was rough when I first opened, and I wasn't really sure how it was going to work because it was the floors were reflective. There was drywall everywhere, so many harsh corners, and it was very loud, very cacophonous. I knew that there was going to be a lot that would have to be done treatment-wise for the room, but the landlord at the time, who turned around immediately and put the place up for sale. As soon as every unit in the building was full, which he did everything that he possibly could to get the entire building full, like waiving different requirements. Like, there's no real reason why I should have been given this lease, in all honesty. But he made it so, and I just thought that it was like, oh, it's because he thinks that this is a great idea. No, it's because he wanted to sell the place, and it's a lot easier to sell when it's full, when you have tenants in every unit. So as soon as there was a tenant in every unit, he turned around and it was for sale. And then once it was for sale, then things changed. Then it was like, anything that you do to that unit to try and soundproof it, it can't be something permanent. It has to be something that you can take with you if you decide to leave. So as far as like opening up the walls and starting to insulate better and doing any of that stuff, that was not going to happen. So I was very self-conscious about it for a while. I was like, am I going to do this? Are we doing shows? Am I just going to do recordings? How is this actually going to work? Because the vision was pretty much like, what if we had a club and a recording studio? Like, normally let's say you're trying to record a live album, okay? You would have to bring in a live audience into a recording studio, which is pretty difficult because a lot of recording studios don't really have a room for a live audience, and you really don't want all your drunk friends in there being wild and rowdy around very sensitive recording equipment. Which is another reason why, if you're bringing a bunch of recording equipment to a bar or to a venue to try and record a show there, that can get a little crazy. So it was like, why not combine the two concepts, basically? So make it a place where you can record live shows. You can, maybe if you wanted to do a EPK or, it's all sorts of different ideas. I wanted to do lessons. I wanted to do sound baths. I wanted to do all kinds of things here. We've attempted many, many things. And I was just I was really dragging my feet for a while until I was finally like, all right, screw it. Let's just book something. Let's just, I'm going to put it out there, even though I don't feel like I'm ready. Let's just force myself to do this. And so I did that. And the first band that performed, so March, April, May, June, July, it was 4 months later after I got the keys when we had our first show. And it was still very loud and cacophonous, and there was hardly any acoustic treatment on the walls or anything. A little bit of 2-inch foam on the ceiling, but not enough to do anything. It was a lot of fun. A cover band, a Rage Against the Machine cover band called People of the Sun from the Coachella Valley. All my homies in this band, they were the first to play. The vibes were so awesome. People locals in town coming out going like, what is this, dude? What are you doing here? Like, it was very, very magical how everything started. And then I kept going for it, you guys. Like, and the concept started differently than how the last show was, let's say. So that first show, The People of the Sun, pretty much, I want to say for like the very first year of booking shows at Audiowild, the model was pre-sale only. I wasn't doing door sales. Now, the concept behind that was basically, look, there's only so much room in this place. There's going to be chaos if a bunch of people show up and if everybody can't get in or if we're over capacity or something. Like I was just envisioning this melee, like everybody's going to want to be in here. There's going to be a line out the door. We're not going to be able to fit everybody in. Let's do pre-sales first. So that way, you know, we can sell it out and don't have to worry about people showing up. We know exactly how many people are supposed to walk through the door. We have everybody's names already there. There's nobody, you know, it always makes me nervous when there's a door guy, somebody's literally standing outside of the club that is holding all of the money. Plus, then it was more like a private event when we were trying to skirt other rules and stuff. It was an interesting time. People were even telling me that trying to do a cover charge in Idyllwild wasn't going to work. And now we're not the only one that does a cover charge. So that was July 2021. Okay. July, August, September, October, November, December. So 5 months later, I end up getting, I still can't believe he said yes. But I reached out to his manager, and his manager forwarded the email to the artist, and the artist's name is Alan Johannes. Okay? So I book this show. I am beside myself. Like, I can't believe that this is a thing. Like, he's going to play here? We'll go into why this is a big deal, because I know not all of you are going to know why this is a big deal. And I'm like, oh man, this is going to be so huge. Everybody's going to show up. And it was a big deal. There were, you know, for the first time I had people coming out from LA, San Diego. I had people driving out from Arizona to come see the show. Unfortunately, it only totaled up to about, I don't know, 20 people, maybe. Definitely not a sold out crowd. I lost my ass on that show. I am not going to tell you the full amount, but it was in the thousands. Yeah. But it was a very cool little private shindig for those of us who were here, got to experience it. I wish I would remember more of the experience. I was still drinking at the time. And yeah, and the very next day there was like a flood from the upstairs. Oh man, the hits just keep on coming. Now, if you don't know why Alan Johannes is a big deal, okay? And I'm not going to go too deep into this, but I need you people to know why this was so big. And doing this in our first year blew me away, okay? So I don't know if you have seen, there's a documentary on Netflix. It's called The Rise of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Our Brother Hillel. And it's about Hillel Slovak, the guitarist in the Chili Peppers who tragically died. Hillel was in a band with Alan. I'm so glad that Alan gets his flowers finally, for being the amazing musician that he is and being like this very important puzzle piece in like alternative rock history. So I implore you to watch it. Not right now. Wait until the podcast is over, okay? And then go ahead and watch that. But yeah, he went on to play with Queens of the Stone Age. He was in a little band called Them Crooked Vultures. I don't know if you've heard of that band, but the drummer is Dave Grohl from Nirvana and the Foo Fighters. And the guitarist and lead singer was Josh Homme of Queens of the Stone Age. And the bass player, John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin, you guys. Alan Johannes was in a band with a dude from Led Zeppelin. And pulls his weight. Like, that's a really good album. I hope they'd come out with another one. He was also in a band called 11 with his wife. They did a tour with Soundgarden. He ended up producing Chris Cornell's solo album, Euphoria Morning. Produced, mixed, all kinds of records. Like, even in the pop world, like, he has touched so many different projects, like the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon kind of thing, like the separation from Alan Johannes to like some of your favorite songs, favorite projects, maybe just 1 degree, you guys, like, look them up. So that was huge. That was life-changing in multiple ways. First time I ever lost my ass on a show. I can tell you that. But totally worth it, okay? I want to say 2 weeks after that show, I found out from my cardiologist's office that indeed I was flatlining. Now, it took some doing to figure this out. At first, they had me wear a heart monitor, and it kept falling off. And they were like, see, you're flatlining. And I'm like, no, it keeps falling off. I was working in multiple kitchens, like I said. So it's like super hot. You're sweating in there. I'm just trying to like put plastic wrap around it to hold it on there. But then I'm sweating even more. It was miserable. Then they implanted a device inside my chest that couldn't fall out, called a loop recorder. Has nothing to do with that little flute thing that you guys played in 4th grade, probably. But it was about the size of my pinky, and it's just this little device that was measuring my various heart waves and stuff. I was supposed to have that in there for 3 months, and they were going to crunch all the numbers and then let me know what the verdict was. But after 1 month, yeah, they were like, look, bro, you are dying. You keep flatlining, and it keeps going for longer and longer intervals each time. And I was like, well, I don't know. I really don't know if I can believe this to be true. For whatever reason, I was in denial, I guess. And especially when I asked them, I'm like, okay, so what, like, I take some medication or something for the rest of my life? Like, what's the remedy? And they're like, no, you get a pacemaker. You need a device in your chest that keeps your heart beating. And I was, at this point, I think I was 39, maybe it just turned 40. And I was like, the hell, doc? Like, a pacemaker is for old people. No, thanks. I'm going to get a second opinion. And he said, yeah, you can get a second opinion. If you think you have that long, go right ahead. That's what he said. If you think you have that long, go ahead. And I only had to tell a couple people that, and they were like, why are you waiting? So I called them back. They were like, yeah, we've been waiting for your call. They got me in pretty much immediately. And opened me up, stuck a pacemaker in there, and my life has honestly been better ever since, at least health-wise. The seizures stopped. That's cool, because it turns out when your heart shuts down, your heart and your brain have its own, like your heart has a nervous system. Your brain, like, so your heart tells your brain, hey, we're dead. And your brain's like, oh, cool. I'll just start flipping switches. I'll just start shutting some stuff down. And I was such an alcoholic and drug addict at the time. And it was just so commonplace for me to wake up and feel like shit that I didn't notice that I was flatlining. My heart was literally stopping. I was literally dying. And I didn't even notice because I just felt shitty all the time. How was I supposed to tell between a hangover and, my heart stopping? So, yeah, that was an interesting thing to go through. I was so much of a crackhead, not a literal crackhead, but I was such an addict that they couldn't give me enough fentanyl to keep me asleep during my surgery. I woke up during my pacemaker surgery. They gave me fentanyl to knock me out, and I woke up before they were done. I got to feel them stitch me up. And then he was like, oh, wait, the loop recorder. So I got to feel them open me up, reach in there, pull that thing out. He showed it to me. It had like Chinese writing on it and stuff. I'm like, what are you doing? And he clinks it in the little jar and sews me up. They wheel me out and they give me more drugs. It was wild, you guys. Yeah. So I was out for a while. I was out for like a good 6 weeks. But the good news is that festivals came back. So I was able to, it was pretty much like on the dot. Like I had to take 6 weeks off, had to leave pretty much all my jobs so I could recover, and then wasn't really sure what I was going to come back to. And then lo and behold, it's festival season again. So, and boy, was it. Like, people were ready to get out and go to music festivals again, which was amazing. It also meant that I couldn't book as many shows as I wanted to at Audiowild because I would be gone. And, even though Chris would help out a lot, it really helped to have me here to kind of schmooze people and keep an eye on stuff, keep things going, keep people happy, to be the manager, to be like the face of the business and everything. And Chris could just be the sound guy. So there was a couple times that I had to let other people run some shows and stuff while I was out of town. But for the most part, it pretty much worked out. We were happening. We had some shows going on. We were popping there for a little while, man. Before all the other places in town opened up, before Terran's opened up, before the Puke opened up, before Lily's, before, there's a bunch of options to go see live music now, and options that also have a liquor license. Something that we definitely struggled with. I'll get into that in a second. But yeah, the competition, you could call it that. Not everybody wants to call it competition, but that's what it is. And when people who book for other restaurants and stuff, when they start coming to our Thursday jam nights just so they can scope out the talent and then start booking them at their place. They're just like poaching them from the studio. That's what started happening. And I can laugh about it now, but I was very bitter. I was real salty about it when that started going down. And there was a noticeable drop off. There would be drop offs from just weird stuff. People would be like, "Oh, we can't draw on the wall anymore? Why would I come here anymore?" It was very strange. And from living in a small town for so long and being just convinced that I had no enemies, that I was just adored by all, then I opened up my own spot, and it was like, oh, that's how you really feel. Okay. So I had to learn the hard way who supported and who didn't. And I, in my saltiness, would focus a lot of times way too much on the people who weren't showing up. And I feel like the people who did show up had to experience a certain amount of negative energy from me. There's people that tried to help a lot along the way that I was not open to receive their help. I was not open to receive their suggestions. I was not in a place to be able to do that, for better or worse. And since the attendance was kind of starting to dwindle, then I was like, okay, well, maybe we get more people from off the hill to come up here for shows, which would work sometimes and it wouldn't work other times. Like in the wintertime when the roads are very treacherous, you kind of, I at least would feel irresponsible trying to tell people like, oh no, it's fine. Come on up to Idyllwild. Go ahead. I didn't want to contribute to any accidents or anything like that. So usually wintertime, I would slow down a lot on bookings. But I figured that a good remedy for it would be if we started doing live streams, because then people don't have to drive. Then they could maybe buy a ticket online or something. They can watch the show. Like nobody else in Idyllwild was doing a live stream. So I was like, okay, that's going to be it. That's going to be how we supplement the income. We'll be able to have this other revenue stream coming in from showing the concerts live. Now, at the time, so this building that Audiowild is in, it's called the Courtyard Building. It was built in the mid-'80s. We're in a little tiny town up here. The resources are what they are, and at the time, there was only one internet provider for the entire building. We couldn't get any other internet provider than the one that was available, and the internet speeds were not great. So there were live stream attempts, and then immediately people demanding their money back because the stream was dropping. It was real difficult. So I started investing in better internet. We were really trying to dial in that live stream thing. Chris was doing his mad scientist thing. We got it looking pretty good. We would live stream the Thursday shows. We would live stream some of the concerts, maybe not all of them. We would record some of them. Sometimes the audio was okay, sometimes it wasn't. It was a learning experience for sure. But the live stream was kind of a fail. It was an internet fail. Another fail that happened that year. So in an attempt to try and compete with the bars and the restaurants in town that are able to have live music and serve alcohol, which, for better or worse, you guys, the two go hand in hand. You can't really have one without the other, unfortunately, turns out. As a person who has been sober from alcohol for over 3 years now, going on 4, I can obviously go see live music without needing to get fucked up, but I can understand very much so that it enhances your experience to a certain degree, or at least makes you think that you have a better experience. It makes you think that everything's better. So what we ended up trying to do was I reached out to a consultant that works for the Alcohol and Beverage Control Company, or Alcohol and Beverage Control Department. That's like a government, like a California government thing that controls who can serve alcohol, who can't, the permits, all this other stuff. So Steve Profit gave me the number for the ABC consultant, and we started talking, figuring out if it was possible. And it turns out that there was a relatively new license available, the 90. So most of the places up here had a 47 or a 48. That's your standard, like, bar, restaurant, food or drink establishment. There's also fraternal organizations or VFWs. They have different licenses for that. A lot of this is awarded on a per capita basis, so it's very difficult to get certain liquor licenses. So you have to get it on the secondary market, and then it's like 6 figures a lot of times to be able to, like, it becomes very cutthroat to get these liquor licenses. Sometimes, who knows what happens? Maybe somebody buys a restaurant just for the liquor license and then bulldozes it and makes it a park and claims that it's a philanthropic thing, but really just takes the liquor license and moves it to a bar down the street. I don't know. Theoretically, I guess it could happen. But the 90 was and is different. So this is something that is available. It's available in the state of California. What made it so unique and so sought after, by me especially, is because you're allowed to not only sell beer and wine, but you can sell distilled spirits. You can sell drinks. I think it's either an hour before and 2 hours after, or is it 2 hours before and an hour after? But basically it's like before, during, and after the event, but you can't, it's not like an all day thing or something. Like, it's not like you can operate as a bar. You're just serving drinks when there's performances. And you didn't have to serve food to be able to serve drinks, which is amazing. I had started doing a snack bar, but I learned that, you can sell a bag of chips, and that's fine. You don't need a health permit or anything like that, as long as your storage is under a certain square footage. But if I was to open that bag of chips and, like, pour it into a paper boat or something and hand it to you, I need a health permit. I need a 3-compartment sink. I need a mop sink. I need a hand sink. I need a tile floor. The walls have to be, like, it's crazy, you guys. So not having to serve food, huge. Okay. And there wasn't a rule as far as curfew, underage, like a lot of times with a bar. If it gets to be 10 o'clock, you got to kick out anybody that's under 21. Or certain places, it's like anybody that's under 18. Or there's some clubs where they literally would stick a chain link fence down the middle of the venue, and on one side is the bar, and on the other side is the all ages people, so that never the twain shall meet. People have had to do really crazy things to keep the two separate, but this particular license was like this unicorn license that was going to allow for everything that we wanted to do. And the stipulations for the license were definitely in our favor compared to everyone else in town. So even if it was a per capita thing, I knew that nobody else was going to be able to qualify for it. The reasons being, you had to have a legitimate stage, actual professional lights and sound that automatically knocks out 90% of the people in town, except for like Rustic Theater and the Brew Pub at the time. So professional lights, professional sound, professional stage. You have to have a sound person. You have to have a door person. You have to have a booking person. They have to all be a different person. Can't be the same person doing all the different jobs. Like, you had to show legitimate evidence that you are a music venue. Sounds great. Okay? We were basically the only people in town that were going to qualify for this. And I was like, done and done. Hallelujah. Now I just got to reach out to the county because Idyllwild is in unincorporated Riverside County. There's no Chamber of Commerce. The mayor is a quadruped. Very unique sort of situation here. So a lot of it just comes down to Riverside County calling the shots on zoning and a bunch of other stuff. So I reached out to the county to see if I was going to need a conditional use permit. But I was like, no, I mean, there's no way, right? Like, this place has already been a place for people to see music, right? There was already music performances going on here when it was a church. Like, there's no way that we're in violation of anything, right? So the planning department got back to me, and it turns out at that time, I think it was like a 681 page ordinance, the whole zoning for the county, not just our little mountain town, for the entire county, the words music and venue don't exist next to each other. Music venue was not a legitimate zoning. It was not a legitimate use for the location. And the way that zoning laws go, if you're trying to use it for something that it's not already listed, hey, these are the uses, this is what you're zoned for. If you're trying to do something else, like I want to breed zebras. Zebra breeding, not in your zoning. That's a new use. You need a conditional use permit. So there was that. But for me, they were saying that they were going to have to maybe classify me as an auditorium, but I didn't have enough parking spaces for that. I was going to have to submit a plot plan. It was going to be tens of thousands of dollars that I didn't have, possibly a year, maybe longer, to try and fight the system to get this to go through. I was very dejected, but that was around the time that this seed kind of got planted. And I was like, well, I mean, the church didn't have a problem. Churches don't have a problem with pretty much anything. Well, that's interesting. So that seed got planted. That was all in 2022. Like 2023, there still wasn't the nonprofit. I was like, okay, what if we try piggybacking off of a license that belongs to another restaurant in town or something? Because if you have a mobile catering permit along with your food handler's license with the Department of Environmental Health, then they'll let you do an off-site event where there's just a certain number that you can do in a year, certain stipulations, but you pull the permit and you're able to serve alcohol at an event that's not where your liquor license actually is. It's somewhere off-site, right? So I cut a deal with a local restaurant owner. This was for the Black Sabbath show, which was April 1st, 2023. I was so stressed out that month, you guys. But I mean, it worked. It was a sold out show. Everything was fine. There weren't any incidents. You know, I shook hands with the guy afterwards, and it was like, okay, cool. This is going to be a great relationship. We'll move forward. He made money. I made money. It was cool. It was like, all right, cool. Thank frickin' goodness, you guys. Thank goodness I did not go public with it. I wasn't like, hey, me and so are partners now, and you're going to be able to get drinks at our events and blah, 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 blah. Oh, my God, what a dirtbag. So, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks, not that long afterwards, this dude is in jail. Not in jail anymore. So all I can say is that he was accused and was arrested and was held for like $5 million for some crazy shit involving very young humans. Gross. Yeah. So thank goodness I did not associate myself with this person whatsoever. But it also meant that that deal was done. There was no... I was going to have to cut a deal with somebody else. I had tried. That didn't go very well. So, yeah, there was some failures on that front, for sure. The ABC license didn't work for ourselves. Piggybacking on somebody else's license didn't work. Also in April, while I was working the festivals, I ended up losing my apartment. So I had to move out while I'm working like one of the biggest festivals in the world. I was taking out loans to try and survive. So I'm just like plunging myself into debt. I tried going back to school. That didn't work. I had to drop out and then pay back money from my Pell Grant because I didn't last for the whole year. But it was also, that was the year that I got super serious about researching for what would become the Church of Divine Vibes. 2024, I got sober from alcohol. My mental health problems did get worse, though, unfortunately. I took a swing and a miss with a local music zine. But the Church of Divine Vibes, that ended up getting traction. Thank you very much to Roxanne Barba. She was instrumental in that whole thing. Like I did the grunt work, the research, and all of that stuff to make it happen. She did the grunt work and the research on finding the right entities that were going to get us federal approval, which eventually came in 2025. So by 2025, dude, I was throwing everything at this. It was everything and the kitchen sink. We were all in. By this point, Makai had moved. Chris moved. The bands that I was playing in were kind of breaking up. Started doing construction on this place. So this has been going on for over a year. Doing fundraisers, a bunch of marketing. Like it was not for lack of trying, you guys. And it was very stressful putting so much into it. And it took its toll on my relationship with Roxy. Like we're still partners. She's still on the board and everything, but we ended up breaking up at the end of that year. But we did get federal approval. So get that letter from the government that says, hey, the Church of Divine Vibes is a real thing. You have a 501c3 nonprofit. It's a religious nonprofit. Like, holy crap. Like, that changes everything, right? So, also around this time, the building is selling again. This is now the third time since I move in. And the new owners were okay with the remodeling and stuff because I needed to be able to use this space during the day. And what was preventing me from using the space during the day was sound. Kind of important in a recording studio to be able to have some degree of soundproofing. Not to where somebody starts playing the drums and instantly the people that are trying to do business next door can't hear what their clients are trying to say to them, or that noise from outside is bleeding into a recording, or any number of things. There was a lot of different issues. So I was like, okay, if we're staying here, because really it's a great location. I know that some people have trouble finding the place. Historically, people have been like, oh, could you make it more difficult to find? Sorry. But this is actually a spot that is not residential. Like, pretty much everywhere else in town that you would perform, there's houses or, you know, a lodging, you know, some sort of inn, like right there. There's a good chance that you're going to be disturbing people. But where we are, on one side of the street, there's a restaurant. On another side of the street is a gas station. You know, there's the highway. Like, we've never had to worry about a curfew. People will be like, oh, what time do you have to end shows there? Whenever. Like, never once did we get a noise complaint for music, ever. I think maybe a few times people, like, causing a ruckus in the parking lot, but I never got a ticket. I never had a violation, a sound ordinance, anything. Like, never, not even once. Where other restaurants, bars, establishments in town, that is not the case. So yeah, 2025, we tried everything. We tried so much. And basically, so 2026, this year, we actually got state approval. We got federal approval before we got state approval. That's how strict California is. And the approval letter was dated on 4/20 of this year. Literally 6 weeks to the day. I show up at the studio to unlock the door, and there are 2 pieces of paper taped to the glass door. A 3-day pay or quit notice and a 60-day notice that the lease is getting canceled. Now, the pay or quit was because I still owed money from the previous month. Now, unlike other times, like, there were times in 2022, 2023, 2024 where I was way under. I was like months and months behind on rent. I was $30K in the hole at one point. Like, it was a dire situation. I was barely even behind a month. I had been late a few times, definitely, because it's a struggle. It surely is. But yeah. They are fed up enough, I guess, with being late on the rent so many times that they think, hey, let's get them on out of there. Like, they know that this is a religious nonprofit now. You know, like, we just got state approval. We're just going to be able to put the lease in the name of the church instead of in my name. But no, they decided we want to give the lease to somebody else. We want to get somebody else in there. So that's for this unit. That is also for the upstairs unit, which is where I've technically been living since 2023. So as of August 1st, I am, as they say, unhoused. I've got homies to stay with. Luckily, I have plenty of friends. It's not like I'm going to be sleeping on the streets or anything. Also, I have a truck. I'll just be sleeping in the truck. But no, I've got some places to stay. I'm not happy about it. I definitely went through the stages of grief. I've been trying to stay in Idyllwild if I possibly can, but it isn't looking great. This has been my home for about half my life. And it's definitely a part of me. It's a part of my story. Yeah, but they decided to pull the plug, and there's nowhere else in town that I can afford. And really, things have changed quite a bit since when I moved here. Like, when I moved here, they were trying to build the community center. There was some land that had been bequeathed by they were calling him a philanthropist at the time, but now I guess he's just known as a local business owner. The brew pub and all of that stuff. So between the Butterfields, the Stewarts, it's definitely a billionaire-owned town at this point. And most of the time that I've spent here has been during my very reckless and hedonistic years. So there's things that people remember me for up here that I definitely do not remember whatsoever. And I will always be thankful to this town for my development, for helping me to come out of my shell, helping me to realize my purpose, and especially the vision for the first church of music, the Church of Divine Vibes, you guys. Like, that is huge. And Idyllwild is definitely responsible for that. Idyllwild was the inspiration, absolutely, for me to be able to put that together. So, the Church of Divine Vibes. Now, without getting super, super into the weeds on this, I was worried that people were going to be very upset about, well, let's be honest, I started a religion. It's not just a church. It is literally a religion that believes that music is sacred. Because it is. There's many reasons why this is true. And not only is music something sacred, but music is something that has been healing people long before medicine ever existed. Music is something that definitely exists, that can be scientifically proven. So, I mean, that's got a one-up on quite a few other religions. And then plus, there's just the relation between sound, vibration, the universe itself. Some say that the universe started with a big bang. Some say that the universe started with a single note. In other ways, you could say that there was a crescendo of activity that created this universe. At the Church of Divine Vibes, we believe that all the vibration of life, because everything is vibration, Einstein taught us that, all the vibration of life traces back to essentially a cosmic song that's been continuously written since the beginning of time. And it's not that the song is telling us what to do, what not to do with our lives or anything like that. We're just in constant collaboration because we're energetic beings. We have a frequency. Everything has a frequency. Our cells, everything around us. And frequencies, that's what happens to make up music notes. We didn't invent them. Like, there's certain cycles per second, certain hertz. 440 hertz, let's say, has been deemed an A. Now, some people might disagree with that. That's a different podcast for a different day. I definitely want to get into the 432 thing and explain my feelings on that. But yeah, 440 hertz, 432 hertz, whatever it is, it existed before the human ear ever heard it and said, I'm going to call that an A. Okay? We don't know where all of this came from. And I mean, there's something that has been said throughout the ages, for thousands of years really, that music and the inspiration behind it, melody, all of these things, that it really comes from somewhere else. Like, I know a lot of people that are like, oh man, no, it comes from me, comes from my experiences, comes from my knowledge and my this and my that and my soul and my schwanz. Maybe. But, you know, let's take it back to ancient Greece. Now, this is definitely going to be all the rage real soon. I predict a very huge resurgence of people being interested in ancient Greek mythology, mainly because of a blockbuster Christopher Nolan movie that is coming out, or has already come out. But also because they're timeless tales. It's, some of us studied it in high school. Like, it's really cool, fascinating stuff. So you may remember from your Greek mythology that all of the music, all of the art, poetry, dance, basically the fine arts, those were a product of the Muses, who were divine beings. They were the daughters of Zeus. And they would basically inspire human beings to be creative. Does that kind of translate to today? Yeah, I'd say that when a song comes from somewhere else, when somebody wakes up from a dream, let's say, and there's this song in their head, or maybe, you know, they're maybe a little outside of their head with, maybe there's been some pharmacological assistance, who knows? Sometimes songs come to people that way. Some people say that literally spirits have visited them and given them songs, or that they heard it, you know, a siren was singing it, a lady in the lake, the trees were singing it. There's historical evidence of animals, bird song, that sort of thing, influencing melody and harmony, the sound of the rain, and heartbeats, human heartbeat influencing the first rhythms. So there's a real tie-in there. Plus, interestingly enough, the word music is from the Greek, meaning or relating to the Muses. So in the etymology of the word music, it's actually the same etymology for the word museum, right? Or before museum, there was the museon. So like the museon of the Great One of Alexandria. So that's where scholars and poets and people would go to perform or to preach, or it was just a temple of knowledge and creativity and powerful minds trying to figure out the world around them. Museum comes from that as well. So here's where we start to get into this difference, right? Because museums, that's viewed as a higher art form. A museum is where you go to see something behind glass that's being preserved. Museums and opera houses and performance theaters, ballet, these sorts of things are considered high art. They have forms of protection. Like there's nonprofits, there's government funding, there's all sorts of things for the higher arts. Then there's what's considered pop culture or merely just like entertainment. And that's where you get your rock club. That's where you get your juke joint, your jazz club. That's where you're going to get your dance hall. That's where, everything else that is normally associated with, I don't know, people getting wasted, maybe sexual promiscuity. There's people think, hey, this is the devil. Over here, you have the devil's music because it makes people want to do devilish things. And then over here, you have fine art because it makes people appreciate life. And, nobody just wants to fornicate all day to Mozart. Heavens no. I'm sure there's people. Anyway. So there's this very definite dividing line between high art and pop culture. And that's why music venues and museums are considered to be two very, very different things. Now, so a museum, you're not really going to get a lot of pushing the envelope on a noise ordinance. Paintings are relatively quiet most of the time. I have never seen the movie, any of them, I think, The Night at the Museums is. But yeah, apparently museums can be quite noisy. But anyway, music venues are known to be, you disturb the peace. You got crazy stuff going on. You got crazy individuals wanting to do crazy things and make a lot of noise, and it's a burden on society. There's no cultural relevance to it, right? Wrong, man. Like, I honestly and truly believe that music is definitely sacred. It comes from the divine source. Music does something to us that nothing else really does, except for like certain kinds of medicine or stimulants or that sort of thing. There's a lot of science behind what music actually does. And it's very odd to me that it's not taken as seriously as it should be. So that's why Audiowild Church of Divine Vibes became what it is. Because honestly, to me, venues, that's a church. That is a holy place. That is where people feel connected to each other. That's where they feel connected to the divine. That is, they feel connected to the music itself, because it's all the same thing. We're all energetic beings. Music is energy. Obviously, I would love for this to continue to exist. It's not going to be able to continue to exist in this spot. I was hoping to be able to work things out. I was hoping to be able to get a new lease, but not the case. So actually what I ended up doing, this is my lease. It was printed out, and I used each individual page as a brush to paint the words up here that says music is sacred. Sort of symbolic, definitely symbolic. And that sort of becomes its own art piece itself, you know? It's like painter mache. Anyway, so I would love for this to keep going. People have been asking day and night, what is the next step? Where is this going? Some folks have reached out to contribute. There's going to need to be more. If we're going to keep going, and I believe we are, there's going to need to be more people pitching in. And it's going to have to be a different situation than the one that we're in, because I have been struggling with landlords and leases and permits and all this stuff for 5.5 years now, you guys. Getting locked into another commercial lease somewhere, at least right away, not something that I want to do. Ideally, what we would do is the church itself would be able to purchase our new home. Because if the church makes the purchase, instead of an individual, instead of an LLC, instead of a corporation, if a religious nonprofit does it, there's certain protections. There's certain things that can't happen again, like getting the rug pulled out from under you, like it happened with this place. Now, in order to do that, that would mean a lot of capital that we don't have. In fact, things are in the negative again. I have done so many fundraisers. I've done so many different things over the years, and I keep promising that it's going to be the last time. This isn't a fundraiser necessarily, but it's going to be along those lines. So what we're going to need, okay? We're going to need some individuals, maybe as few as, 5 or 6, maybe as many as 10, 12. But we need some people with preferably deep pockets that are willing to not get equity in exchange, okay? What you do get in exchange for donating to the church to help us purchase our new home, that's a tax write-off. We got the federal, we got the state, we are all good. We are allowed to ask for donations now. For the first year and a half, something like that, we weren't even allowed to ask people for money, okay? Now it's official. We can ask. So for the church to be able to purchase the property, that money is going to have to be donated. It's going to have to be donated from individuals, possibly like you. We'll see. The money that gets donated, it is earmarked for a specific purpose. That means that we can't just run off and spend it on something else. Like, oh, actually, we need more shirts. No. It is earmarked for a specific acquisition of land. And I can't go into too much detail, you guys, because I don't know if you know this, but there's some really dishonest people out there. Imagine that. So I gotta kind of keep certain things under wraps, just so that way bad actors can't be bad. But there is a location. No, it's not an Idyllwild. But there is a really cool location that was found. Myself and two people who are willing to donate already. We walked this location recently, within the last couple weeks. And it's amazing. It has a lot of potential. It's pretty gross right now, but it needs a lot less work than this place does. Like with this place, there's still electrical up here that's exposed. There's still HVAC exposed because all of that we're gonna have to put in new ducting. We're gonna have to get a new panel and everything. This other place, 3-phase, 200 amp. This is 2-phase, 100 amp. Okay, I have so many extension cords stretching things out from leg to leg so that I don't blow breakers. It is madness, you guys. We've been making this work somehow, and I would be lying if I said that there wasn't part of me that is somewhat relieved to not have to push this boulder uphill anymore, to actually have our sights on another spot that is in a cool town that is real close to another famous recording studio. Oh, I wish that I could tell you guys more. But anyway, so it turns out not only is this a relatively cheap thing, we can probably get it for cheaper. And myself and the other people, we were looking at this place. We're kind of pumping the brakes a little bit on it. Gonna let it sit there for a little bit longer. There needs to be a price negotiation. They need to show up to reality on the price, but it's the most promising thing. And even if this one doesn't end up working out, wherever we end up, it's definitely going to need some help. Like I'm playing the lottery, but yeah, I know that there are very kind-hearted people out there that love music, that want to see music continue. And there are so many venues closing. The music is just so under threat right now. Like the corporations moving in and swallowing up the venues and jacking up the ticket prices and all this other stuff. Like I love me some Pappy and Harriet's, okay? That's an awesome venue that is also in the middle, much more the middle of nowhere than Idyllwild is, but, you know, at least there's kind of 2 lanes to get there most of the way. But they have a full restaurant, they have a bar, they have all this recognition. Paul McCartney played there. Why do they have to charge fees on top of their tickets? Why are there service charges for their tickets? It's not a corporate spot. And you're telling me that people aren't going to eat or drink that? Like, you're not going to make it up? And anyway, to each their own. You can do whatever you want, obviously, with your... And I've tried all sorts of different crazy things. Never tried charging people extra fees. Whatever our door price was, this is what our door price was. There were no hidden fees involved in any of that. But anywho, we're going to an all donation based model anyway. It's not a, fee for service kind of thing. So when people want to record, when people want to perform, when people want to teach lessons, any of that stuff. This is a church that believes that all of those things are sacred acts. Those are all protected under the church. So that's what we want you to do. Why would I be charging crazy LA prices? Like I've essentially been operating as more or less a nonprofit from the beginning, just because I refuse to gouge people like that. And plus everywhere else in Idyllwild gouges the shit out of people. I definitely didn't want to do that. So, for better or worse, we did what we did. We came as far as we did. I am very, very thankful. And it's now time for the next step. So I'm going to throw some links out there. I'm going to put it on the screen somewhere. We have a Substack for the Church of Divine Vibes. I think it's probably churchofdivinevibes.substack.com, I think. You can find all kinds of information there. You can find, there's a frequently asked questions. There's a FAQ on there that I think I just put out last February. I highly recommend the 9 Sonic Truths. That's basically the tenets of the Church of Divine Vibes. And if you study that, it's very in-depth. There's a lot to read. And I didn't even put as much, I scaled back on all of that so much. So eventually there's probably going to be, I don't know, books, multiple version. There's so much more to get out there. But for the helpful things, the info that you're wondering and you're going to need, check out our Substack. There's also a Substack for this podcast. There's not really anything on it, I think, at this point, but I'm going to be doing more there because this is going away. And I'm going to need to keep in contact with all of you. And social media can only do so much, you guys. I am very tempted. I'm like, man, if I am not having to promote a bunch of shows and stuff for a little bit, should I just take a break from socials? Should I just make all my accounts private and just go into hiding for a little bit? It's very tempting. Probably not, but we'll see. There's probably a few things that I should maybe stop saying out loud or stop posting on the internet. But who knows? Who knows if I'll actually do that? So yeah, Substack. I'm working on a book. I don't know what it's going to be called yet, but I know that it's about all my crazy stories. People keep telling me, what the hell, man? You need to write a book. They've been saying that forever. So, fuck it. I'm doing it. I'm a couple chapters in, which is nice. Who knows how long it's going to be. And maybe I'll have a lot more time to write coming up. We'll see. I am also going to be on the job hunt. So, audiovisual jobs. If people need a DJ, I do weddings, private events, all sorts of stuff, every kind of genre imaginable. The last couple DJ gigs that I did, one was an all 70s thing. The other was an all 80s thing where I dressed the part as well. I would even play 80s TV or movie theme songs as transitions in between. It was a whole lot of fun. The DJ stuff is fun. If anybody needs consulting, in the home studio side of things. Now, granted, I don't do the big jerk off expensive home if you're looking to spend a ridiculous amount of money putting in super professional stuff and whatever, I would kind of love to make that stupid money, but that's not what I do, man. I am about doing things on a budget that sounds like it's from a studio that costs a stupid amount of money. So if you want to know how to do that, then yeah, go ahead, give me a shout, give me a holler, give me a hire. I can help you figure out whether it's a venue that you're trying to start, you're having issues with your room, your acoustics, anything like that. I can help you with that. I've learned a lot over the last year trying to soundproof this place. There's certain skills that I can lend to you for a fee. And a big one, you guys, there is a talent that I have, and that talent is spotting talent. Which I believe I have demonstrated quite well with this place, because so many folks are like, wow, man, I don't know half the bands, never heard of them. When I know that there's a show going on here, I just buy the ticket. I buy the ticket because I know that even though I've never heard of this person, I'm going to enjoy it. There's people that tell me that I have impeccable taste when it comes to music. And I get really nerdy with putting the right package together too. Like, I like geeking out on the way that a bill can build up, the way that it crescendos, the way that it sort of ascends to this higher place, and the way that everything can sort of complement each other. Now where it's like you're just randomly putting a bunch of stuff on a bill that doesn't make any sense, I went to CBGB a few times when it existed. They would have like 15 bands in a night or something. They would go until like 3 o'clock in the morning. No rhyme or reason to it. No anything. There's a punk band and then a disco band and then a hip hop act. Like it was amazing. But yeah, curating events is something that I'm good at, but I have a talent for talent buying, and it's something that I have a few years of experience doing, not just at this place, but from the benefit festivals that I booked for a couple years in a row. I love this stuff, you guys. I love music. It is my entire life. It's my religion. Hey, how about that? Music is my religion. So yeah, I'm going to throw out also, people have been asking about shirts. Crazy amount of people asking about shirts. I've sold out of all the Audiowild shirts and stickers and all that stuff. I'm going to do a second run, probably. I'm also going to put some items up on a merch page. Now it's going to be basically print on demand. This is not stuff that I'm going to be able to buy ahead of time, and then I've just got, a bunch of cardboard boxes of rolled up shirts with the sizes on them or whatever. I can't afford to do that shit, you guys. But I can upload the designs and I can put cool shit together that people would probably be interested in. Like, for instance, there's later this week, the Ghost Notes and Long Duck Dong are playing over at the Rustic Theater. Ghost Notes is they play a lot of Grateful Dead stuff. And hey, it just so happens that we have Grateful Dead inspired merchandise that is very much on brand with the church, the venue, and everything that I believe. So check out the merch, check out the Substack. If you would like to be a founding patron, if you would like to be one of the people that helps us find our new and hopefully forever home, please reach out. I'll try and put up as much information on that as I can. The last jam night ever at this location, Thursday, July 30th. It's going to be a mad dash to get out of here. I'm sure jam night people are going to be looking around going like, are you supposed to be leaving? Don't you have to be out of here like tomorrow? How are you going to get all this? Patience, my friends. Also, there's some very cool people who have offered to help. And even though I don't really know where I'm ending up at this point, I know that I will be okay. I have faith in myself. I have faith in the universe. I trust and believe, you guys, because it's not... I used to be one of those I'll believe it when I see it kind of guys, and now I understand. Now I know that you have to believe it in order to see it. Belief is huge. Faith is huge. So I have faith that this is going to work out. I believe that we're onto something really, really big. And it's bigger than this. It's bigger than this building. It's going to be hard to say goodbye, you guys. But I'm very, very thankful for the amazing ride that it's been, for all of you that have been a part of it, and all of you that are going to continue on this journey with us. So thank you very much. That's a wrap. Puke's Podcast, Episode 2. Hopefully not 6 months until the next one, but it will definitely be filmed in a different location. Much love, you guys. Have a good one. Thank you.